Hi everyone, I'm Lady Teddy. I'm going to be reading to you guys from Magium, which is a text-based choose-your-own-adventure app. I'm doing a Smart Good Berry playthrough currently. So the main character's name is Barry. If the decision is good or smart, I will generally make the decision for everyone, but if it's just sort of general playthrough or conversation stuff, I will allow people to help me make the decision if they would like. I know a lot of people like just listening to my voice and falling asleep or just relaxing, and if no one wants to participate, that is totally okay. I will give people the option of saying, if anyone would like to make a decision, now is your chance. I'll give y'all about a minute, and then I will move on. So, and if anyone is new here and has questions about what's going on, I know it isn't in the middle of the story, so feel free to ask. So it looks like it is up. And we are starting chapter 3. Where it left off, they're underground, sabotaging the arena that they are about to be forced to participate in to fight for their lives, for their freedom. So they just killed a bunch of the monsters that they would be facing, and they ran into other members of the party while they were underground, and so they are meeting up with other members that the Aluna, the other party member, is going to be introducing them to. Every time. Voice feels dry as soon as I start to read. No, Marshming, there is no tequila in this water. And I do have all sound alerts turned off, so I would not recommend redeeming any sound alerts. Aluna's friends were waiting for us in an area not far from the one where the trolls ambushed us. He was leaning on a wooden staff with several dead trolls lying on the ground around him, and he was studying us closely as we approached him. His appearance shocked me at first, but when I saw Aluna nod to him, I immediately realized that he was the one that she brought us to meet. Aluna's friend was no taller than 4 feet, with fangs instead of teeth, a crooked nose, pointy ears, and green skin. I must admit that I wasn't expecting this friend of hers to be a goblin, but given the fact that Aluna is a banshee, I suppose I shouldn't find it too strange that she'd have a few monster allies in Varathia. I've heard before that goblins are supposed to be really smart compared to other monsters, but this goblin in particular has a very shrewd look about him, and his cunning grin reminds me of those slimy merchants that are constantly looking for new ways to rip you off. And he's not trying to hide it, either. His high intelligence is likely a result of his old age, which I've heard is not an easy feat to achieve if you live your life as a goblin. Most goblins die young, either because of starvation or because they get killed while trying to steal food in order to survive. Since they are considered monsters by other civilized races, they are forced to live from scraps and often need to resort to illegal activities such as smuggling or stealing in order to get the goods they require. But this goblin's skin is all wrinkly, which means that he must have lived well over 200 years, given how slowly goblins are known to age compared to humans. Living this long as a goblin, especially in a place like Varathia, is definitely not something that you can achieve through sheer good luck. Is this the Lasathi you were talking about, Aluna? The goblin says in the common language as he looks towards me. Yes, Aluna says. And the Lasathi girl? The goblin asks. Is she from your group too? The Lasathi girl is apparently a teammate from his arena division, Aluna says. I only just met her myself. The goblin says. If she's a gladiator, then I suppose I can safely assume that she has nothing to do with Meredith's group. I'll admit, I was a little worried at first. Hold on, I say. You're telling me that you can both tell she's a Lasathi just from one glance? If your magical sense is sharp enough, you can tell the difference between a human and a Lasathi with minimal effort, as long as you study their auras closely, Aluna says. However, when you've dealt with as many Lasathi as we have, it becomes a second nature. Marco, hello. Welcome in. How are you doing today? Are you sure that these two can be trusted? The goblin asks. Aluna. Aluna gives me one long look before she answers the goblin. Barry is trustworthy enough, she says. I don't know much about the girl, but I don't see any reason why she wouldn't agree with what we have planned to what we're planning to do. She is a gladiator after all. Hey, wait a minute, I tell Aluna. If we're talking about trust, then the same question goes for him as well. Just how much are you willing to trust this guy? To me, he looks just about as trustworthy as a swindler who would try to trick you into playing a rigged game of cards on the main streets of Bagelberry. The goblin laughs out loud after hearing what I had to say about him. I like this one, the goblin says. He speaks exactly what's on his mind without making any effort to sugarcoat his words. Oh, thank you. Hello, how are you doing? Marco. To answer your question, Barry, Aluna says, I do not trust him at all, but he does not trust me either. However, we are both smart enough to know that neither of us would benefit from betraying each other. The information he provides me with regarding the other monster race's activities is invaluable, and in return I've been helping him from time to time by ridding him of some of his enemies, or joining him in covert missions such as this one. And what exactly is this covert mission that you were talking about? I say. There is a minotaur being held here in these tunnels, the goblin says. They call him the undefeated champion of the arena. You are supposed to be fighting him in the second round, provided you survive the first one. I want to make him an offer. What offer? I ask. I will offer him his freedom if he agrees to join my goblin camp and be part of my army, the goblin says. You have an army? I ask him, confused. I thought you were just some random goblin that was acting as Aluna's informant. The goblin laughs. There really isn't any limit to your bluntness and disrespect, is there? The goblin says. The goblin that you are talking to is Fyron, Furin, the general of all free goblins, Aluna says in a bored tone. He is at the top of the hierarchy of all the goblins from Varathia that are not under Tyrath's rule. Tyrath? I ask. You mean the dragon that I fought on my second day here? The one and only, Aluna says. I am intrigued, Furin says as he strokes his chin and looks at me. I can't say that I've heard of many beings that fought Tyrath and lived to tell the tale. How exactly did you manage to escape his wrath? Super Mario Twitch, thank you for the first time chat. Welcome in. How are you doing? Well, welcome. I hope that you enjoy this. If you have any questions about what's going on, feel free to ask. Who said that I escaped? The ones who fought Tyrath sound like the ones who fought Tyrath before sound like a bunch of weaklings. Do I seriously need to run away from the likes of Tyrath? I feel like good and smart does not really affect this. This is a good playthrough. Good, smart playthrough. So if it's good or smart, I will generally make the decision. But this doesn't really seem like a decision. I know a lot of people just like listening to this because they like relaxing to the sound of my voice, and so there's no pressure to participate. But if anyone would like to make a suggestion of what to say here, now is your chance. I will give you guys a minute. Yeah, I'm leaning towards this answer as well. The answer is eating gave him a bunch of magic powers for like 5 minutes. And then before the battle ended, Ilisathi trap kicked in and teleported him away. He would have won, but it was intervened. And I'm good, Super Mario Twitch. Thank you for asking. Who said that I escaped? So you managed to persuade him to let you go then? The Goblin General says. Or are you going to tell me that you defeated him all by yourself? Not by himself, Aluna says. He had help from a certain Stillwater that I believe you are well acquainted with. You're talking about Eden? Firen asks. Yes, Aluna says. Oh, Super Mario Twitch, if you're interested in this, it is free on both Android and iOS, and it's really good, and I have a ton of respect for the author, and there's a ton of different paths that you can pick. It's D&D based, so there are stats. You have a stat device that you will periodically get stat points throughout the game. So there's like a ton of different paths that you could take. I'm doing smart, so I'm doing hearing, observation, and ancient languages primarily. But yeah, it's really good. I would strongly recommend it for yourself. Or if you don't feel like playing it for yourself, all of my previous readings are on my YouTube, so you can just listen to those as well. The first ones are a little sketchy though, because I had a lot of technical glitches. Yes, Aluna says. And the reason I'm doing that is Aluna is a banshee who's trapped in the body of a child who is 9. Who is still there. Two souls in one body. Yes, Aluna says. Eden seems to have taken an odd interest in Barry and his group for whatever reason. I hear that the Stillwater appeared out of nowhere in the middle of their battle with the dragon, and he powered up Barry's stat device in a way that allowed him to cast spells. This is the reason why Barry was able to fight Tyreth on equal terms. What you're telling me should be impossible, the Goblin General says. Unless the item itself is the one casting the spells, Ilisathi should not be able to use magic by any means because of the complete lack of magic in their aura. I did hear about the Ilisathi of old experimented with adding magical stats to the device a long time ago, but I am quite certain that they never managed to make it work. In order for someone to be able to cast spells by using those stats, they would need to have both the low magical frequency of their aura that is specific to the Ilisathi, and the potential to cast spells. They'd practically need to be both a Ilisathi and a The goblin stops talking, suddenly, looking as if he'd just made a shocking realization. Seeing the look on his face, Araka starts to laugh from within her amulet. "So you figured it out then, eh?" Araka says. "You knew?" Firon asks her. "I figured it out a while ago after he started casting spells left and right against a bunch of skeletons," Araka says, "but I thought he was a regular Lasathi too at first. Eden is probably the only one who knew it from the start." "So that's why he's taken an interest in him," Firon says. "What are you two talking about?" I say. "I have forgotten to change the picture. Thank you for reminding me. I'll do that later, Super Mario Twitch. Yeah, we've just finished book 1 and well, we've just started book 2 like this week. "They're saying that you're a half Lasathi," Aluna says. "A half-human, half Lasathi, to be more exact." Upon hearing Aluna's words, Layla suddenly turns her head towards her, and she watches her attentively. This is the first time I've seen her react in any way since the beginning of the conversation. "A half Lasathi, you say?" I tell Aluna. "It's the only possible explanation. I don't know of any other races that look the way you do, and as long as you are also half-human, your use of the magical stats makes sense." "To be honest, I don't really care either way," I say. "Being a half Lasathi doesn't really make much of a difference to me. Besides, I have absolutely no idea how I'm supposed to use those magical stats that you were talking about. So far, I've only been able to use them for a very short period of time, and only after gaining access to a huge source of energy. That's not exactly ideal." "There is a way to unlock those stats permanently," Firon says. "However, doing so would require a code that is most likely only known to a handful of the Lasathi in the top brass of their organization. I wouldn't realistically expect you to get a use out of those stats anytime soon." "So, I say, it's not that I'm not enjoying our conversation and everything, but shouldn't we maybe get moving before the trolls send more reinforcements our way?" "Why would they send any reinforcements?" Firon says. "I already took care of their scouts." He then gestures to all the dead trolls laying on the ground around him. "Nobody else should know that we're here," Firon continues. "Speaking of trolls," Araka says, "are you guys going to hide these bodies anytime soon, or are you planning on hanging them as decorations? Not that I'm against either of those ideas, of course." Super Mario Twitch, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome into the community. "Can you just wake up Flower and have her incinerate the troll corpses?" I ask Aluna. "I'd rather not wake up Flower unless it's absolutely necessary," Aluna says. "Stealth missions were never exactly her specialty, and she doesn't really get along with Firon all that well either." No need to worry," Firon says. "I've got everything covered." The goblin then smacks his staff into the ground, and all of the troll corpses are engulfed in flames at the same time. After a few seconds, the flames disappear, and the dead bodies are replaced by ashes. "Shall we proceed?" the goblin says. "Araka, are there any enemies in our way?" Aluna says. "Nah," Araka says. "You've already killed most of the guards from this area." She has 3 voices. I cannot do... I'm still figuring out how I want to read her voice. She's one of my favorite characters. She's chaotic evil. Yeah. Nah, Araka says. You've already killed most of the guards from this area. And no one is hiding invisibly? Aluna says. No one, Araka says. Excuse me, Aluna writes, as she looks at Aluna. Excuse me, Layla writes, as she looks at Aluna. Did you just say that the banshee from the amulet is named Araka? I did, Aluna says. You've heard of her? I've heard a few things, yes, Layla writes. What exactly have you heard about her? Did you hear that she'll grant you 3 wishes if you spin her by the chain? Did you hear that she gets sick if you spin her by the chain? Let me show you. Alright, good smart berry would not piss off Araka, so this one. She gets motion sickness. Okay, brief summary. Barry is he joined a tournament. His life goal is to become a mage, and he's spent basically his entire life traveling the world looking for a way to become a mage, but he's not able to. He thought that he was an ordinary hero, then he found out that he was able to. There is going to be this huge mage tournament where all of the most powerful mages, or whoever wanted to join, would be able to go to the elusive country of Varathia. And the prize at the end is access to the Magium, which is the source of all magic. And he thinks that if he gets access to the Magium, he will be able to create his life dream of becoming a mage. Along the way, he has found other members of the party. The reason he thought he could get away with this is because there's such things as still waters. Everyone is able to sense a magical aura from people, even normal humans. And you're able to tell whether someone's a normal human or generally their amount of strength that a mage has. Yeah, they've met other people along the way. It turns out that he is not an ordinary human, which means that his parents were adopted. They died when he was a child. He is a Lasathi. Lasathi are a very ancient race of humanoid. They look exactly like normal humans, but they have so low magical frequency that they are not able to have any magical potential whatsoever, but they do have a resonance with the Magium, which we don't know exactly what it is yet. And they're very skilled at creating magical devices. He is just now finding out he is actually a half Lasathi. Lasathis are the only ones who are able to use the stat device, which gathers magical energy in the area. Eden is a Stillwater. Oh, Stillwaters are like legendary powerful mages that have the same aura as a normal human. There is a chaotic neutral or chaotic evil named Eden who is a Stillwater. He's almost killed them multiple times, decided not to on a whim. He realized that he was able to give magical powers through the stat device because he's half Lasathi. He's the only one who's able to use the magical stats because he has human in him, which means he has the potential for magic. They killed a noble. The party killed a noble. Sort of. He was a dick. He was a dick. He was like beating a slave to death, and they killed him to stop it. Because they killed a noble, they were thrown into this arena where they have to fight. The person who's in charge of the arena wants them dead. If they fight in this arena and win and survive, that means that they have their freedom and they can go about their business without worrying about being hunted down or anything. Currently, they've all been broken up into different divisions. Layla is someone who he met who's in his division, so she's very new to the party. She also needs to fight for her freedom. And she's also a Lasathi. Lasathis were able to activate a trapdoor that led them underground, where they are currently sabotaging the arena by killing the magical beasts. Is that an adequate summary? Aluna is a banshee, and she shares the body of a little girl named Flower, who's 9. If we run into other party members, I'll explain who they are. I think the story is super interesting. The story is so good. The author's on book 3 right now, and the next chapter is supposed to come out sometime this month, and I'm so excited for it. It left on such a good place. Oh my gosh, such a cliffhanger. Finally getting answers about Barry and lore and other characters and history and lore and like progress in various goals. I'm really excited to get there with you guys. So stat devices are a magical thing that was created by the Lasathi. They create magical devices in general. They've created magical devices that allow them to cast spells. Stat devices just increase their stats, so like strength, physical stats like strength, speed, toughness, reflexes, hearing, observation, and then also ancient languages, combat technique, and premonition are not physical, but they are still stats. It doesn't allow him to cast magic. There are certain devices that will allow them to cast specific spells, but it's the device itself that is casting the spell. Yeah. And then there's other things like teleportation devices and drones, which will kind of a spoiler. Not really. There's also achievements, and one of them, there's the Average Joe playthrough, which I've never done, or haven't done yet. So there's stats, and the Average Joe is one of the stats you can get throughout the game where you don't use the stat device at all. And the only reason you would do that is if you're trying to get the Average Joe achievements, and I guess that he starts doing like fourth wall breaks where he acknowledges that he's in a story and it starts freaking out the other characters, which I just think is super funny. Yeah, there's a lot of different paths you can take. I'm looking forward to doing Evil Berry at some point because, yeah, from what I understand, shit gets weird. Oh, Layla is a mute. She was born as a mute, and her stat device is modified so that she's able to use her thoughts to create floating text in front of her, and that's how she communicates. What exactly have you heard about her? I've heard that she's a very evil and powerful spirit that played a major role in the Still Winter War. The Still Winter War, Layla writes. Is this really the same Araka as the one from 600 years ago? It is her, Aluna says. I guarantee it. Who the hell are you talking to? Araka says. Have you both gone insane? Yes, they are all in the same game. Just go to the place or the I don't have an Apple iOS store, whatever, or the Play Store, and you can download it for free. There used to be ads. There's not even ads anymore. You just download it. And like the author, he writes it all himself, and then he also codes it all himself. And the coding language for iOS and Android are completely different. So that's like just doubly impressive, triply impressive, because that's yeah, just so cool. And I did get his permission to read this out loud. I don't think I would have needed it, but I have so much respect for him that I wanted to make sure that I had his permission. Considering you don't have to pay for it. or anything. It is her, Aluna says. I guarantee it. Who the hell are you talking to? Araka says. Have you both gone insane? We were talking to Layla, I say. Who the hell is Layla? Araka says. The Lasathi girl, Aluna says. She's been communicating to us through written messages floating in the air in front of her. Oh, so that's what she was doing, Araka says. Can't you see her writing? I ask her. No, I can't see anything from inside here. Are you stupid? Araka says, I have no eyes. I can make out most things with my magical sense, so I don't really need my eyesight for anything important. But to me, the girl's drawings in the air were just magical particles floating around at random. So now that I know what they're supposed to be, I might be able to make a little more sense of them. Are you sure it's safe to carry her around like this? Layla writes, looking concerned. Don't worry, she's not that tough, I say. Hell, I fought her with a dagger when she was in her best condition, yet she still couldn't kill me. You really like to play with fire, don't you, Berry boy? Araka says. As long as she stays in that amulet, she's not a threat to us, Aluna tells Layla. Come on, let's get going. We've been standing in one place for long enough. She pauses. But before that, she says, I'm going to cast a few healing spells. Most of your wounds seem to be older than 1 day, and they're not severe, so I should have no trouble healing them completely. Oh, I was doing the wrong voice. Barry, I have no idea if the blood on your clothes comes from your wounds or from the trolls I killed earlier, but if you need healing, I'll tend to you afterwards. Thank you, Layla writes, as Aluna begins to cast her healing spells. After Aluna is done with the healing, the Goblin General takes the lead and he guides us through an empty tunnel on the opposite side of the tunnel. Opposite side of the tunnel we came from. That is quite an interesting method of communication you are using, young girl, Byron says. Judging by the way the magical particles are forming in the air, I would venture a guess that you're using some kind of modified version of a stat booster to transmit your messages. Am I correct? Layla does not answer the goblin immediately, and she takes a few moments to look him in the eyes before she writes her response. I see that you are very knowledgeable when it comes to magical devices, Layla writes. I've fiddled around with a few artifacts and devices, including my staff, yes, Firon says, but nothing as complex as your translator. It must have taken a very thorough understanding of the ins and outs of mind-reading magic and years of hard work to make something this sophisticated. Whoever worked on your device must have been very talented. He is, Layla writes with a solemn look on her face. So, I say, why are you looking to invite the Minotaur into your army? Are you planning to go to war against the dragon? How intriguing, the Goblin General says. You have absolutely nothing to gain from this information, yet you are casually asking me to divulge to you some of my most important military secrets without offering me anything in return. I know that you are not a spy, because no spy would be stupid enough to ask me something like this directly. So what is the reason behind this question, I wonder? I believe this is what humans like to call small talk, Aluna says in her usual indifferent voice. Empty words with the sole purpose of engaging in a conversation, for no reason in particular. Barry is just particularly bad at being discreet, so he never stopped to think whether his question was appropriate or not for this situation. Give me a break, I say. If you were so worried about me knowing your plans, then you would have never allowed me to find out about the Minotaur in the first place. If you have any reason to think that I might somehow leak the information, then you can just tell me that you're looking to hire the Minotaur as the army's accountant and leave it at that. It's not like I can verify the information that you give me anyway. I have not played any other text-based adventure games besides this. I started one that someone recommended to me a long time ago, and I can't remember the name of it, so I wasn't able to finish it. So this is the only one that I've actually played. Have you? Araka laughs. If I were you, she says, I'd make the Minotaur do the accounting anyway, just to mess with him. I hear that jobs that do not involve physical labor are considered to be the most dishonorable by Minotaur standards. I'll keep that in mind, Firon says as he knocks on the wall with his staff, and a secret passage opens up in front of us. You really know your way around these tunnels, huh? I tell the goblin as we enter the hidden corridor. Firon spends a lot of his time exploring hidden passages and underground ruins, Aluna says. His hobbies are not much different from those of Flower in that regard. Now, Aluna, Firon says, there is no need to insult me like this. After all, isn't it due to my so-called hobby that we managed to remain undetected thus far? I would appreciate it if you refrained from comparing me to your dim-witted companion over a small similarity such as this. Oh? Aluna says, did you forget, perhaps, that it is thanks to my dim-witted companion that you were able to build that staff of yours? We would have never met in that cave 20 years ago if not for Flower's unrivaled stupidity. Flower's the 9-year-old. I can't do fake laughter. Araka laughs. I still remember your face when you woke up in the middle of that cave, surrounded by fire and elementalists. I can't believe that she actually fell for my bluff. Just thinking about it makes me burst into laughter. Hello? We hear a voice coming from a dark corridor to our right. Is anyone there? Can you hear me? Thank you, Marshming. We all stop suddenly and we look towards the corridor in an attempt to find the source of the sound. The voice seems to have come from the end of the tunnel, but it's much too dark to see anything clearly. If you can hear me, please help, the voice says. I've been trapped here for months. I'll do anything you want, please. The goblin says as he creates an orb of light with his staff, and then he makes it float all of the way to the end of the tunnel. Now that we get a clear look, we see that the end of the corridor there is a locked cell which holds only one prisoner, a tiger. Were you the one calling out to us earlier? Firon asks the tiger. Yes, the tiger answers him. Please, let me out of here. I'll do whatever you ask. There are talking animals on this continent, and there's a law that the animals don't talk to humans in the common language. Or they're killed by their leader. Oh, the goblin says with a mocking smile. Are you certain it's a good idea to be addressing us in common like this? I heard that the old fox is executing anyone who dares to speak in this language nowadays. The golden fox can go to hell, and so can her... The golden fox can go to hell, and so can her rules, the tiger shouts. I'm never going back to that horrible place again. You do not wish to return to the fox's domain? Firon says. But what other place is there for animals like you? Who else is going to protect you if not the spirit fox? I don't need anyone else's protection, the tiger says. The goblin grins. Is This why you are in a cell, alone, begging for our help then, he says, because you do not need anyone's protection. The tiger lowers his head, and he does not say anything. Let me see if I understand this fully, Furon asks. From what you have hinted so far, I'm assuming that you'd abandoned the Fox domain long before you'd been captured. Am I correct? Yes, the tiger says, with his head still lowered. Were there any other animals captured alongside with you? Furon asks. No, the tiger says. I've been living by myself ever since I left the sacred woods. I see, Furon says. He then makes his orb of light float closer to the iron bars of the cell, and the light from the orb begins to fade. Furon says. As I suspected, the cell you have been placed into restricts the use of magic. Should I take it that you are a mage, then? I am, the tiger says. The goblin grins again, and he turns his gaze towards me. It appears that I'm in luck, Barry, Furon says. I may have just found myself the perfect candidate to lead my army's accounting team. What do you think? Does he look fit for the task? I'm going to tell it to you straight. I don't see him holding a pen anytime soon. I see that it didn't take you long to adapt to our human small talk. Could we stop calling them accountants? It's beginning to sound confusing. Okay, well, this is not Smart Berry, so it would be one of these two. I want to do this one, but Good Smart would do either. So, if anyone would like to choose the other path, you are more than welcome to. You have about a minute. You just love picking the one that I don't do. None of these are going to get him killed. We're not in combat, Marshmang. Okay. So, you said small talk, but then you said don't listen to you. I'm telling you straight, none of these options will get him killed. But you said don't listen to you, so can I do the path that I think is funny? I'm giving you guys the option. If you really want to do this one, that's fine. So which... I just love how snarky Barry is. He's so funny. His sarcasm is fantastic. You should see later on, pretty much anyone that could kill him, he tells them to fuck off. Cleo just woke up from a dream. Alright, which one? Nope. It's not. This is not an important choice. This is just conversation. I just think this one's funny, which is why I want to do it. But this isn't a relevant choice. Okay. Thank you. I'm gonna tell it to you straight. I don't see him holding a pen anytime soon. Fortunately, he will not be needing a pen in order to lead his team, Firen says. He just needs to be good at calculations. I'm sorry? The tiger says. You want me to do what? The goblin laughs. Pay us no mind, he says. We are only jesting. Although you did say you'd do anything I ask, so you should not act so surprised even if I made you arrange desk papers for a living. I suppose, the tiger says. Aluna, could you take care of those iron bars for me? The general goblin says. The anti-magic properties of the cell do not seem to spread beyond those bars, so you should be able to slice them with your water whips from the outside. Very well, Aluna says. She then conjures 2 whips made out of water that she appears to be holding with her hands, and she uses them to slice the iron bars into pieces. You are now free, Firen says, looking at the tiger that is now walking out of his cell. And by this, I mean you are free to do my bidding. I really do hope that you are not planning to betray me and rejoin the fox immediately after we get out of this place. I assure you that is not going to happen, the tiger says. Excuse me. The goblin says. May I ask what the fox has done in order to lose your loyalty to such a degree? Why would you still refuse to go back to your homeland even after all this time has passed? I have my reasons, the tiger says. See, that's not very reassuring, Firen says as he points towards the tiger with his staff. If you're going to give me vague answers like that from the very beginning, what's to tell me you didn't in fact make up that whole story about leaving the fox's domain just to gain my sympathy? The fact that I'm speaking to you in the common language, the tiger says. Explain, Firen says. Alea, the great golden fox, the tiger says, has a habit of interrogating all of the animals that return to her domain after a long period of captivity. One question that is always asked is if you'd spoken to any humans in common while you were away. There is no way to hide the truth from the great fox. As long as she is studying your aura, she can easily tell if you are lying or not. Even if I weren't in exile, like I said, going back to my homeland now would be nothing short of suicide. She would execute me on the spot. I admit that I have heard of the fox's interrogations, Firen says, but I assumed that she would make an exception for mages and for other valuable members of her community. The fox does not make exceptions, the tiger says, with a look in his eyes that seems to show both anger and terror at the same time. "I used to think the same as you before she murdered the leopard's son in cold blood." "The leopard?" I say. "You mean Leo, the leopard?" "Yes, that is who I am referring to," the tiger says. "He was her most loyal retainer. He still is. But that did not stop her from executing his cub for the heinous crime of begging for his life in common to a couple of human hunters. The leopard may have accepted her judgment, but I never will." The tiger pauses for a few seconds, and then he repeats himself in a lower voice. "I never will," he says. No, it's not modern, but there are devices and stuff. An army would still need accountants to sort of keep track of paperwork and money and where people are, what resources need to go to where. You know, hold everything accountable. "Ah," the Firin says, "now things are starting to make sense. If the fox later also executed your family in a similar manner to how she executed the leopard's cub, I can see why you would choose to leave her domain forever. That would also explain why you left your homeland by yourself." The tiger is looking pretty angry after hearing the goblin's words, but he chooses to remain silent. "You've said enough," Firin tells the tiger. "At the very least, I would find it very unlikely that you would return to the golden fox after everything you've just said. Regarding your debt to me, I only ask that you accompany me to my goblin camp on my way back. If the life there is not to your liking, then you may leave at any point, and consider your debt to me paid. I am, however, quite confident that you will choose to remain." "And why is that?" the tiger asks. "You will understand once you get there," Firin says. "Now, follow us. There is still another prisoner that we need to rescue before we can leave this place." "Another prisoner?" the tiger asks as he joins us, and we all resume our walk through the caves. "You don't mean the Minotaur, do you?" "Who else could I mean?" Firin says. "Is there anyone else that would be worth the effort of releasing?" "I suppose not," the tiger says. "The Minotaur is likely the only prisoner from this place aside from me who is not some mindless beast." "I'm curious," I say. "You say that all the creatures trapped in these caverns are mindless beasts, but I've also seen some saber-toothed tigers on my way here. Do you feel the same way about them, too?" "Of course I do," the tiger says. "What kind of question is this?" "Well, they are tigers," I say. "No, they aren't," the tiger says furiously. "They are saber-toothed tigers, not tigers. How can you even compare the two?" "Barry is not from Varathia," Aluna says. "Believe it or not, in the continents outside of Varathia, there isn't much difference between animals and creatures. A tiger from the western continent is just as much of a mindless beast as a saber-toothed tiger." "You can't be serious." "You can't be serious," the tiger says. "On the contrary," Aluna says, "I am quite serious. I do not know of the high level of intelligence shown by the animals. I do not know if the high level of intelligence shown by the animals in Varathia is due to the golden fox's influence, or due to some other factors, but the fact of the matter is that Varathia is the only place in the world where animals can speak, and it is the only place where they live in civilized societies." "Ha!" Araka says. "How does it feel to know that there are animals out there who are dumber than ogres? Did you think that you were anything special? I'm willing to bet that the people from outside of Varathia wouldn't even be able to tell the difference between you and a wild beast. To them, you are nothing but a mindless creature, no different from a harpy or a giant slug. Isn't that right, Barry?" Well, it's a bit hard to treat him like a dumb beast when he could speak common. Yeah, to me, he's no different from a harpy or a giant slug or a banshee in an amulet. Yeah, creatures and animals are all the same to me, to be honest. Okay, good Barry would pick this one. These both feel mean. Well, it's a bit hard to treat him like a dumb beast when he can speak common. Don't worry, I have an easy fix for that. Araka says, just ignore what he says. If you don't pay any attention to him, you'll find it much easier to treat him like an animal. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say animal? What I meant to say was creature. I always get the two mixed up. Ah ha ha. Who the hell is that clown from the amulet? The tiger says. Some sort of prankster spirit? That's rude, you know, Araka says. You should not assume I'm a clown just because of the girl wearing my amulet is dressed in clown clothes. They don't teach you much manners in animal school. Don't they teach you manners in animal school? As unbelievable as it may sound, Aluna says, ignoring Araka, the banshee trapped in this amulet is the one responsible for the exile of all the banshees to the earthen plane. The gods didn't want to deal with her, so they banished her here, along with her kind. Or so she claims. I can see why they'd want her out of the magical plane, the tiger says. Even the gods would run out of patience when dealing with such idiocy. Oh yeah? Oh yeah? Araka says. Well, I'll have you know that. She does not get to finish what she had to say, because Aluna snaps the amulet shut in the middle of her sentence. I've heard enough of this, Aluna says. We have more important matters to discuss right now. She then turns to me. Barry, do you and Layla have a means of returning to your cells? Barry, do you and Layla have a means of returning to your cells? Aluna says. I think I should warn you that Furon and I will be teleporting out of here as soon as we free the Minotaur, so we won't be there to escort you back. No, we don't have a means of returning to our cells, I say. The way we came is sealed shut and 100 feet above the ground. We need to find another way back. If you're looking to reach the main quarters below the arena, Furon says, there's a secret tunnel that I can open for you, not far from where the Minotaur is located. You might have to get past several traps in order to reach your destination, however. That's awful nice of you, I say. Do not worry, Aluna says, seeing the mistrust on my face. Furon is not foolish enough to risk his alliance with me for no other reason to amuse himself. He is not Araka. If he says there's a tunnel leading to the corridors below the area, then he likely speaks the truth. I see, I say. Well, in that case, thanks, I guess. There's no need to thank me, Barry, Furon says. I never help people for free. There may come a time when I will be in need of your help as well. If that time ever comes, I'd rather have you owe me a favor than the other way around. That's all there is to it. Furon, is this the last tunnel before the labyrinth? Aluna says. Yes, Furon says. The tunnel's exit should leave us very close to the maze's entrance. Wait, what maze? I say. Do you know that old legend, Furon says, in which the gods worked together to build an elaborate maze for the sole purpose of trapping the king of the Minotaurs? Well, it seems that the owner of the arena liked that story so much that he decided to build his own underground labyrinth, as soon as he got a hold of a Minotaur. Unfortunately, I did not have a chance to visit these tunnels since the maze was created, so once we reach it, I won't know my way around as well as I have so far. Recently discovered there were actually some Sonic the Hedgehog Choose Your Own Adventure books with multiple endings and items with rings acting similarly to the games. I watched a video describing all the bad endings for one of them. That's cool. I wasn't allowed to watch that show growing up, so I don't think I have a connection to the story enough to play it, but that's cool that it exists. I I don't think that will be a problem, Luna says, since there will likely be no need to hide ourselves anymore. Once we reach the mage, they will surely have caught our presence by then. I think we should be able to handle their guards by ourselves, but if worse comes to worse, I'll wake Flower up as well. I'm sorry, who is Flower? Layla writes, confused. Flower is the little girl inhabiting this body, Luna says. You mean she's still alive? Layla writes, shocked. But aren't you a banshee? Didn't you consume her soul when you took over her body? Aluna laughs. If only it would have been that easy, she says. Unfortunately, the two of us have been stuck together in this body for the past 20 years, and will likely continue living like this for years to come. Our souls are fused. I see, Layla writes simply. She looks as if she'd still have some questions to ask, but ultimately she decides against it. As the tunnel's exit draws closer, Aluna reopens Araka's amulet, and she asks her if she can spot any enemies nearby. Oh, so now you want me to talk, Araka says. You're not going to close the amulet in my face anymore? Well, what if I don't want to talk? What do you say to that? If you're not planning to talk, then I have no further need of you, Aluna says as she starts to close back the amulet. Have a good nap. Wait, Araka says just as Aluna was about to close the amulet. Okay, fine, you win. There's some trolls not much further down the next tunnel, but they're not in viewing range of the maze's entrance. The coast is clear. Thank you for the lurk, Super Mario. I'm probably going to finish up soon. My throat is getting sore. And it's late. That doesn't sound right, Aluna says. They should have at least some guards by the entrance of the labyrinth. I'm much more inclined to believe that they've become aware of our presence and that they deliberately emptied the next tunnel in order to lure us into the maze. That changes little, Furon says. The only way to reach the Minotaur is through the maze. If the trolls choose to stand in our way, then we'll just have to make our way through them. Once we reach the next corridor, we make sure that the coast is indeed clear, and then we proceed to enter the maze. The walls inside the labyrinth look a little bit different from all the rocky walls we've seen in the cavern so far. They are black as coal, and they appear to be made from a different material. Furon, who seems to have spotted the difference as well, gets closer to one of the walls and he looks at it curiously. He swipes the wall briefly with his index finger, and then he brings the finger close to his face, studying the black powder that has accumulated on the tip of it attentively. Tell me, Araka, the goblin says, are you sensing any trolls nearby? What? Araka says, no, I already told you. The coast is clear. Are you sure? Furon says. What kind of question is that? Araka says. Of course I'm sure. Oh? Furon says. Then could you perhaps describe to me what lies beyond this black wall? Yeah, hold on a sec. Araka says. After about 10 seconds, we all wait silently for Araka's answer. Well, Firon says, weren't you going to describe to us what's on the other side? There's a bit of interference, Araka says. I'm still working on it. Oh, then by all means, Firon says. Do not let this old goblin's ramblings interrupt you from your work. Please, take all the time that you need. It takes 30 more seconds of silence until Aluna finally snaps. Good gods, she shouts. How long is it going to take you to admit the obvious? This wall is clearly made from a magical material that blocks magical sense. We can wait here all day and you're still not going to get through it. Are you really that stubborn? Fine, Araka says. I admit it. I can't get through it. I have no idea what's on the other side. Are you happy now? Firon grins. Thank you, Araka. I believe that will suffice, he says. As Aluna noted, this wall is made from a material that does not allow magical sense to pass through. This type of black rock is not uncommon in underground caves such as this, and it is called ceridium. The owner of the arena must have chosen to build this labyrinth here specifically because of the existence of these rocks. There wouldn't be much of a point in making a labyrinth if people could just use their magical sense to see through walls, now would there? As the goblin was talking, Layla was busy inspecting the floor of the cave with a very focused look on her face. Firon notices her and he goes closer in an attempt to figure out what she is studying so attentively. Is there something special about this corridor's floor? Firon asks her. Layla nods. She then points towards a black spot on the ground, which is almost indistinguishable from the color of the rest of the floor. This is no ordinary black stain, Layla writes. It is troll blood. Look, there's more over there, and there as well. The trail is fresh. If we follow the drops of blood, they might just lead us towards the Minotaur. Or the trolls could very well be baiting us so we walk directly into their ambush, the tiger says. Since when do trolls leave blood trails anyways? Don't they have regeneration powers that heal all of their wounds in a matter of seconds? Not all of them, Aluna says. The effectiveness of their regeneration varies from individual to individual. There are also certain types of wounds that heal slower than others. We have no way of knowing whether this trail was left deliberately or by accident. Not that it matters, really, as long as we aim to reach the Minotaur. We're going to run into the trolls sooner or later, whether we follow this trail or not. Okay, my throat is sore, and it's been almost 5 hours of streaming, so I'm going to end here. It seems like a good spot. That is the right spot. You can hear my voice kind of breaking a little. Nope. Transfer achievements. I don't think I made any. Yes. Okay, back to cloud menu, back. Make sure this worked. Cool. Oops. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Welcome in all of the new people. Super Mario Twitch, I know you're lurking, but thank you again so much for joining, for asking questions and being interested. Again, this is Why Not Zoidberg. Thank you so much for the follow. I'm ending right now, unfortunately. I don't know if you were lurking or not. But thank you so much for the follow. Welcome in. I lost my train of thought. Once again, this is a really cool story. I have a lot of respect for the author. It is free on both Android and iOS, so if you guys want to play it for yourself and do your own playthrough, that would be awesome, and you should talk to me about it. If you don't feel like doing your own playthrough, you are more than welcome to watch mine. Do you have a story when people were walking in line and someone suddenly stopped walking and all the people bumped into each other? No, I do not. I'm reading from a book. I am ending Why Not Zoidberg, I'm sorry. But if you want to listen to this on your own time, you could start from the beginning. All of my previous read-throughs are on my YouTube page. Yeah, I'm tired. Almost 5 hours. My throat hurts. Okay, so yeah, thank you again for following. I'm sorry that I'm ending like right now. Yeah, I hope you guys have a really good rest of your day or night or whatever it is wherever you are. Have a really good weekend. And I'm going to bed now, so good night.